Hello, everybody, and welcome to Everything But the Cats, the podcast where we are legally, morally, ethically obligated to talk about every single thing under the sun, except for one specific thing. My name's Gage.
I'm DJ.
And today we are joined by
Garrett.
Now, you guys probably know Garrett has been with us on 7 other occasions at this point. Technically 3, but 3 of those occasions, no, 4, but 3 of those occasions were 2-parters. So Garrett's been with us a good amount of times, and we went to school together. Good old friends. But Garrett is actually, we're doing something a little different today. DJ, what are those episodes called where one of us teaches the other about something?
We call them the baby archives because we tried to do a bunch of them ahead of time so that when my son was born, we would have a few weeks of leeway, and we missed an episode a couple weeks ago. So sorry about that. We've used the leeway, but we're doing it today, so we'll get caught back up.
Yeah, I definitely didn't stop doing editing and uploading for like 2 months in the summer of last year. That didn't happen.
Sure.
Nope.
Anyways, we're doing a baby archive today, kind of, but instead of DJ or I taking the lead, we're trying something different, and Garrett is going to be teaching us about something. So Garrett, what are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about one of the greatest, most devious acts of war ever known to mankind. That happened in 1932. I'm double checking my notes, make sure I got the date right. And that is Australia's Great Emu. Sorry. I'm trying to work on the pronunciation. Emu War. And it's a doozy. It is not pronounced emu. It's emu.
I just want you to know that if ever you're in Joplin and like you really need someone to come help you out with something, if you're still pronouncing it emu, I'm not helping you.
That's fair.
I just want you to know that I used to get emus and Eno, the hammocking brand.
Yeah.
I used to get them
That's fair.
confused.
It could be worse.
I was 18.
It's pronounced
It could be like
Eno.
the Cassowary War. Then it's like they're fighting actual
Dinosaurs.
velociraptors. Yeah. If anyone doesn't know what a cassowary is, go ahead and look that bad boy up. They have like a 4-inch raptor claw. It's like,
I remember my first time playing Far Cry 3.
Yep.
I'm walking along and I'm like, oh, what a cute, fun little peacock
And then just
fella.
Dead.
And then I died. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the honey badger in Far Cry, what, 4?
I haven't played
5? Who knows? They're all the
Played
same.
it. Yeah, so true.
So true. So yeah, we're talking about the Great Emu War. Garrett's going to teach us. I have listened to a podcast here or there about it, but it's been a few years, and I really haven't looked into it too much other than that. DJ, what is your experience so far with the Great Emu War?
I read the Wikipedia article about 2 years ago. So.
Great. So,
Yeah.
Garrett, there are some pieces of information we might know. There are probably a lot we won't, especially with the details that you told me beforehand. So, anything else that we need to say before we start diving in?
I don't think so. DJ?
No, I'm ready.
I guess one thing is, remember, this is real. This did happen. And more importantly, real soldiers were in on this. Yeah, this is a loss on Australia's record for wars. Spoiler alert.
I wouldn't know who you're... Anyways, that aside, let's go ahead and let's dive in, Garrett. Where do we start our story?
All right, so we're going to start in the beginning, like every good story, right?
In the beginning.
In the beginning. Sorry, I had to. So first off, we're going to talk about Australia. We all know it. We all love it. Some people hate it. There's spiders. There's snakes, you know. I think it's great. I haven't been there, but I watch a bunch of YouTubers from there. I guess it counts for something.
I think this place I've never been to is awesome.
I mean,
Spoken like a true zillennial.
it is, yeah. I'm not going to say my age. I'll be old this year. I'll put it that way. So, in 1606 is when Australia was founded. Some people know this already, but yeah, technically it's been around longer than what America has. Not to the same extent that we have, but it was an island just full of prisoners. Europe found it, was like, hey, we're, full over, way over on our prison system. Just ship them off.
According to England, that's what we were.
Uh-huh. We're a lot cooler than them, though. Kind of.
Correct, Australia.
I love you all. But little do they know that an island full of prisoners was their least of their worries. Sorry, I keep looking over to this side where my notes are from my second monitor. Their greatest threat had yet to come, and they had a lot of time to prepare, but boy, did they waste it. Because that pure chaotic nightmare would begin in 1932. So, any questions beforehand?
So they had 300 years from when they were founded to when
26
the
years.
inevitable war finally came to a head.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this isn't Skynet. They're fighting birds.
Spoilers. Come on. The only question I have is, do you want to see my best Australian impression?
Please don't, but do.
Oi!
I'm an offensive stereotype.
Where's my Vegemite, mate? I'm going to throw a shrimp on the barbie and throw a boomerang around, I'll tell you what.
Sorry, Australia.
We love you.
But not that sorry.
So, it takes place roughly around the end of World War One. So in 1929-esque, very late into it, which going into it actually was, I know we had our Great Depression around that same time, which
Same.
I had always heard, same, 2020, whew. But they basically, our Great Depression affected everyone in the world. We all know this. There's the really infamous picture of the German kids burning money to stay warm. It happened. There's this money that was mass produced. It affected the entire world because we were spending so much money, and so was everyone else helping us, so on and so forth. But Australia had this brilliant idea where all of their honorably discharged veterans, they're like, hey, to help you guys out and to help the economy out, we're going to give you all this farmland. We're going to give you subsidiaries. We promise, we're going to give you these subsidiaries. You're going to grow all this wheat. Wheat in Australia. Think about that one there for a second.
I was going to say, I don't feel like Australia is the best place for growing anything.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. I've never been.
Life.
They grow sand. It comes from somewhere, right? Jesus
Sand?
Christ. I don't like sand. It's coarse.
It gets everywhere.
But yes, they were given this land during the Great Depression, and it was really hitting them hard. They were just struggling for food. Some places had money issues. America had food issues as well. But this was they were roughing it, just bare minimum. And like I had mentioned, the government was like, hey, if you do this, we're going to give you all this extra subsidiaries, give you extra money, all this provisions. Did not happen. So by October of 1932, so 3 years later, after the end of all this, the farmers decided that even though they did manage to grow something, they weren't going to give it to the government. They're like, listen, you guys did not fulfill your promise. We're just going to harbor this stuff and keep growing it and keep growing it, and essentially destroyed the land. So it created this weird dynamic of I wouldn't say swampish or marshish, but it was this open field full of wheat and full of water, which is prime stomping grounds at the time for animals. And Australia is known to have a lot more animals than what we do in the US. I think we have more, variety. They just have more per capita, a ton of animals compared to what we have.
Yeah.
So around that same time, they noticed on the horizon about 20,000 emus heading their way. So lo and behold,
Wait, hold up.
Is that how it happened?
Australia noticed it. The horizon is water.
Right. But it was continent's huge. So it's but essentially this pack of 20,000 emus just migrated.
Wow.
It was a thing they had not taken into consideration for it, and they were smack dab in the middle of their hybrid their migration pattern. And every year they would do this mass breeding from coast to coast. And this farmland was right in the middle. And the emus were like, hey, this is open farmland with plenty of free food and free water and free real estate.
Free real estate.
I knew you were going for it. I stole it first.
It's free real estate.
It's free real estate, I tell you what. Sorry, I turned my gain up all the way. So, they just... It's free real estate. Hate that. You need a voice changer for that? It's free real estate. So basically, yeah, these emus just, like, migrated to this farmland, and these farmers were like, well, crap, what are we gonna do? Because now these mass amount of birds are not just there, they're breeding there. There's no need to go from coast to coast anymore. All this mass-produced farmland, they're just hanging out. Literally chilling like villains. Because they are devious little monsters. So, because, and like I said, because of the recent cleared lands and now ample water supplies and due to the crops, the birds of prey decided that they were the captains now, and they took over, is what my notes say. This happened particularly in the areas of Chandler and Walgulan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I thought Oklahoma had weird names. Walgulan takes it. We do have Nowata and Lottawata, though. So that's the thing.
I've never heard of Lottawata.
Yeah, it's great. We have Broken Bow and Broken Arrow. Love it. Side note. Yeah, they continue to devour and destroy everything they came across. They also left massive gaps in the fencing that the farmers had created, which caused more issues because now the wild vermin could get in. So you have your wombats, your rabbits, things that would also just destroy everything. So it wasn't even just the birds. It was literally every wildlife creature that Australia had was now like, this is great. We're going to hang out with these dudes. So it got so severe that the farmers reached out to the Minister of Defense, Sir George Pierce of Australia, and were like, hey man, we need to figure something out. What can we do? And they asked a few questions here and there, and the farmers, who were World War I vets, decided, you know what? Let's kill them.
Yeah.
Let's just shoot them.
Yeah. I mean,
and so the Minister of Defense... What's up?
Sorry, they say when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you're a soldier, everything looks like... What side were the Australians on? Who invited them?
How'd they get to us?
Yeah.
Like you see a bunch of like Germans like rushing a battlefield, the boomerangs like knocks one of them out. On your left, mate. Sorry.
The Minister of Defense is just like, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil.
Yeah, freaking birds.
Minister.
Okay.
That went over my head. There's a gauge miss. Tally that one. So, the Minister of Defense was like, you know what? Let's do it. Under 3 conditions. The guns were to be used by military personnel only. So the farmers were like, okay, cool. We are military personnel. But then he said you couldn't be discharged. So he assigned the task to 2 men. We'll get there in a second. The troop transport was to be financed by the Western government of Australia. So it wasn't 2. 2.
That was
2
2
people.
conditions.
There's 3. I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
So that's the second one. The troop transport had to be financed by the Western government, so they had to get like approval and literally taxpayer dollars to kill these birds. The third one is that the farmers must provide food, accommodation, and payment for the ammo. Now, around this time, I have a rough little estimate here from the gun they used. The gun was 62 pounds. Back in 1918, I should have had this one ready. I'm so sorry.
But inflation, it's like 200 pounds now.
Oh
wait, no, we're talking money. We're talking money pounds.
Yeah.
Not just. I was like, that feels like a light gun for the time. Good on them.
So that would have been around $1,300 today.
I was close.
Per gun. And so that's just the gun. That's not including the cost of ammo.
That's 2 guns?
Ideally.
I have 2 guns.
For now.
One for each of you.
So, on the record, Sir George Pierce has said the only reason why he agreed to it is that the birds will make good target practice. Didn't care about anything else. Just wanted to have his guys trained up. But little did he know of how much of a fool this would make him. He may have done some great things back in the day. This was not a great decision. Because it led into a landslide of issues.
I love the mentality, real quick. I love the mentality. Let's go shoot birds. It's good for target practice. Because war is fought against birds.
Oh, they're gonna wish they were humans at the end of this one.
Fair.
Because it is embarrassing. like I said, they lost. So, during the same month, so this all happened in like the span of like a week. Like, they're like, hey, this is all happening, we gotta get this fixed now. Their war had officially begun. To the point where it was actually announced, like, George Pierce. Is that his name? Did I just mess it up?
No, that's his name.
Okay. George
know that's
Pierce.
his name.
Yeah, George Pierce, I'm just gonna call him Pierce. Had said, you know what? We're gonna dub this a war. We're gonna dub this like the war on the war on the emu.
Yeah.
And so it was conducted under, like I said, two men. Major Gwynedd, spelled Gwynyd.
That's a Welsh name.
Yeah, that seems Welsh.
Oh, just wait. That's just his first name. Major Gwynedd Purves Wine Aubrey Meredith.
All right.
Oh, it is Welsh.
Very Welsh. In my note, I just put Jesus, like, after the amount of names. I was gonna include like a picture of like the bellboy from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, where it's like 15 different.
Esteban.
Julio Ricardo.
Esteban, yeah, that's his name. This is the kicker. He was of the Royal Australian Artillery's 7th Heavy Artillery Unit. So this man's done some damage. He has like seen big time war. He has caused major like issues for against other countries. And the other one he was one that was over. I'm sorry. The two soldiers that were with him, so 3 guys total, were Sergeant S. McCurry and Gunner J. O'Halloran.
That guy's Irish.
Gunner is just the title. There was no first name, so just O'Halloran.
It's probably like Gunnery Sergeant or something like that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Now, these 2 men would be armed with the 2 guns, which were Lewis guns. And we'll talk about that gun here in a minute, because I live in Oklahoma and I'm a gun nerd. More importantly, they had 10,000 rounds of ammo each. Remember, the farmers had to pay for this. So they had to fork up roughly $2,600 for the guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo. I have looked everywhere that I can. I cannot find the cost of this ammo anywhere. But based on today's standard, a 30-06, like a box of 30-06, was like $50, I want to say. I'm pulling it up. Yeah, $41 for a box now. So back then, probably like 4 or 5 pounds. Not crazy, until you're buying 10,000 of them. Then it adds up pretty quick per gun. So, all right. So, like I said, before we get onto the gun, any questions so far?
So, like, okay, genuinely, though, the government's being like, hey, y'all need to pay for this. But that kind of makes sense because they didn't give the government what they were supposed to give the government.
Correct.
But that also kind of made sense because the government didn't give them what they were promised. So it's essentially just like, everyone's like, no, you do it. And then they're just kind of like, okay.
Yes, Gage, you are correct. That was also, like, kind of hinted at, was that it was like, this is kind of like a catch-22 for the farmers, where it's like, yes, we're gonna help you, but you're going to pay us back what you did not.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, the farmers were like, well, if you don't help us, you're not going to get anything back. Like, these are just going to run rampant and mass produce and become a major issue. I can only imagine how worse it would have been if they would have actually lost way worse. What?
I love the idea of describing animals breeding as mass producing.
I mean, it is.
It is mass produce.
Okay.
Swing and a miss.
Again, that's 2.
Gage, that was a good joke. I want you to know.
It was a good joke. I had to stop myself from laughing.
My kidney is gone because of how hard I had to not laugh. Gone.
You had multiple kidneys? What did you say?
I didn't say anything. We just made faces because yes.
Oh, I thought you said your kidney was gone.
Yeah, but I do have a spare.
Neat. I'm just kidding. I do too. I have 2. I'm not. This is what it was like living in Ozark, everyone. It just was. A lot more screaming.
Kidneys.
At one point, I had 4
Before the accident.
before I wasn't a kid anymore.
Gage, no, that was a good joke too, Gage.
No, it wasn't.
So you're at
You don't have to lie, DJ.
All right.
1.5 misses.
On to the gun. The specifics about the gun. This is when I really took charge of the notes and I broke away from the research because it is, oh boy.
That's how I handled all my papers at Ozark.
Same. Looking at you, Shane Wood, exegetical for Axe. Whew. All right. So, the Lewis gun, like I mentioned before. So
Is this OU or EW?
Or UI in Spanish.
Yeah.
Lewis
Lew. Sorry, I was confused. Like Lewis.
Okay.
So this gun, like this bad boy, was originally, and quite literally, a light machine gun to today's standards. So light machine guns today's standards are belt fed, huge bag of ammo on the bottom, 100+ rounds. They're meant for like suppressing fire and dealing major damage over time. Now there's 2 of those things ripping ammo. Remember, 10,000 per gun. So
That's approximately like 5 minutes of straight firing.
yeah, we'll get to that. So this gun, and you've seen it on like either movies, if you played Battlefield, it's on Battlefield. I think they were on some of the older Call of Duties as well. It's called the pancake gun on a lot of games, where the ammo is on a disc on the top.
Oh, yeah.
So that is a Lewis gun, where like the barrel's like this big around. At the very
Yeah.
end. Like terrifying gun. It didn't just shoot bullets; it just sprayed them. Like you didn't really aim with it. And so this thing could hold anywhere from 47 to 97 rounds at any given time.
That's
I
the
know,
right
it's
response.
so exciting, little dude. And so it could also fire, depending on the magazine and if it overheated, roughly 500 to 600 rounds per minute. So, Gage, you were almost on the money. It could fire for like 5 minutes straight unless it jammed, which back then, guns jammed a lot, especially in the outback, because you're dealing with sand, you're dealing with dust, like all of it.
Spiders the size of your face.
Yeah, one just crawls out of the barrel.
Faces the size of spiders.
Sure. So, the real big thing with these guns, and again, could not find exact specifications because that's how old they are, but they could have 3 different types of rounds in them. They could have 303, which is a pretty big rifle round.
That's the band that wrote Don't Trust Me.
It is a baba.
It's also
Can
a
you
bop.
You, like, smack your dad for making that terrible joke, like with that bottle? Good job. So, they were either a .303 caliber, a 30-06, which is a standard, like, deer hunting round. Wild, but still, like, the bullets...
Put a
3 inches
machine
tall.
gun full of those.
Yeah, just full of them. Or a 7.62 by 5.7, which is a millimeter. So it was roughly around the same size like an AK-47 uses. A little bit smaller, or a little bit bigger. And so the thing with these is you would see Lewis guns usually mounted on airplanes. Like that was what they were used for. They were for infantry warfare. So not only was it like just this ultimate like light machine gun, they were like, yeah, this is what's used to take down like metal airplanes. Yeah, we're gonna use these on birds.
Did they know
Yeah.
that the birds weren't made of metal?
I hope so. Maybe it was Skynet. Who knows? And so,
It's like
hold
using...
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're good.
I feel like there are similarities between birds and planes. Like
they fly.
this is the gun we use on things with wings. Like, we
Can you
don't
imagine
make-
they pull out like an AA gun? There's like a flat cannon. Like, I didn't even think about that. That probably worked wonders.
Light 'em
Because
up.
we're gonna get to why the guns didn't work here pretty soon. But like, I feel like a flat cannon, because people don't know what a flat cannon does. It shoots, it explodes, and fires shrapnel in like a cloud, like an explosive shrapnel cloud, and they worked really well. In today's world, they work really well.
I feel like this is like in Skyrim or like The Witcher or whatever, where you've got specific swords like silver swords that are supposed to be used for certain kinds of creatures or something. But it's like A silver sword will definitely also kill a human.
Yeah, that's why in The Witcher you just stick with the silver swords because they're better anyways.
Yeah. It's just one of those funny things. It's like, if you have it, just use it all the time.
Yeah.
That's why we should use flat cannons for everything. Always go with overkill.
There's no kill like overkill.
I mean,
anyways,
there are the memes
Go
that
ahead.
are like, you need this one for hunting. You need this one for home intruders. You need this one for blah, blah, blah. And it's just like flat cannon for all of them. Like,
they walk in the door and there's just no. You just hear, and there's just no more door, like, and no more person. There's just mist, just everywhere.
man.
That's what would happen.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know because they have to travel a certain distance, so it probably would put a hole in them. Your neighbor across the street might be pissed though, when there's like a million little holes all over and they're hurt.
We're good.
Speaking of hurt.
No.
Dad reflexes kicked in. So, on my notes, I put in all caps. These guys did work. They were created for taking the literal lives of men and shooting down airplanes. Now, remember all of this. We will talk about that here in a second. So, before we go to event 1, just to recap. 2 people in charge. 3 technically if you have the Minister of Defense. Over soldiers. I couldn't find like a definition, like a definite how many people there were. Because I think some farmers did end up supplying their own guns and helping. But this all happened, like I said, late November, or October, excuse me. November 2nd of the same year was the first event. The first war on crime. And so the men traveled to Campion. I think that's how it's pronounced. Campion.
It's pronounced emu.
And so that is where they first spotted a pack of 50 emu. Now, these guys were military personnel, so they should, and one of them being heavy artillery, they should know these things are out of range, because they were. And so with that, they're like, hey, let's get some locals together, and we're gonna wrangle these birds. We're gonna herd them into an ambush. Well, what they didn't realize is that they're basically dealing with modern dinosaurs, and they're not. I mean, dinosaurs were kind of dumb. But these things were actually very intelligent. Like, think about this. They went from coast to coast every year. They've avoided everything year after year after year. So they've seen some stuff. And so, and people fail to forget, animals are smart. That's like if you go out and do like elk hunting today, if you put a deer stand or a tree stand up, elk will see it and they will avoid it. They're not stupid. Well, guess what the birds did? DJ, you're muted.
Died in droves.
Gage.
I am going to say they ended up actually taking one of the soldiers.
That's
I
a
wish.
hostage.
That's a hostage.
It's just like they have their long neck wrapped around him. It's like pulling him away. So
The bird next to it, the emu next to it, has its beak pointed at his head.
just pecking him like in the temple, like over and over again. And the guy's like, "Oh, stop it!" So none of you guessed correctly, but I wish Gage's was correct. No, the emus immediately recognized what was happening, and they split off into smaller herds.
Oh.
Like the group of 50 split. Like they're like, "Nope, we're not doing this. We're done."
Do emus have a natural predator in Australia?
I want to say they do. Hey, that's one thing I did not look up, but I can find out. I imagine they do.
Because I imagine emus as birds, like birds of prey, not as like prey themselves.
Dingoes.
Dingo ate my emu.
So dingoes, wedge-tailed eagles, and adult emus will kill younger ones.
Okay.
According, and then feral dogs, pigs, eagles, foxes, snakes, and I don't know what that animal is. I'm gonna butcher this name. Goanna? Goanna?
Sure.
Oh, it's a big lizard. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. They are like known to hunt and find eggs and kill them. Good lord! I just looked up the current estimation of emus living in Australia.
6.
They really didn't win this war.
It's 190,000.
No.
2 million.
Oh, 725,000 estimated.
I was closer
The first time.
The first time.
So yeah, so the birds split away. Soldiers decided, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and open fire anyways. They're not in range. We're just gonna spray and pray, literally with Lewis guns. And it says on record that there was no confirmed kills. They just missed every single one because they were out of range.
Yeah, they didn't bring back any dog tags, so we couldn't count any of their kills.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was trophies. We'll get there. So, during that same day, they managed to actually regroup a lot of them. They opened fire during a second event, and the only listing I could find was that a number of the birds were killed. Later that day, another small flock was discovered, and then they killed a dozen or so. And that is from, like, George Pierce. Like, that is what they have mentioned.
I love the phrase, a number of.
Yeah.
Because you know what's a number? Zero.
Exactly.
Like, every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, a number of Victoria's Secret models has expressed interest in going on a date with me. That number is 0.
What?
That's a -1, my guy.
What?
Huh? And it's gone. So, yeah. So just imagine, right? There was 50 of them, and they killed a dozen or so. So a good dent. Like, more than a fifth.
Yeah.
Still a lot of birds. Still 40.
That's a lot of birds.
That's a lot of birds. It's still 40 birds that stand 6 feet tall. So it's like, how do you miss? I don't know. I digress.
Stormtroopers.
Literally. So on November 4th, 2 days later, Meredith, the gentleman that had the crazy name, the Welsh man,
Yeah.
had decided, you know what? We're going to post up at this local farm, and we're going to ambush them. They didn't know how many were going to be there. So they only brought, I think it said roughly 4 people. 5 max is what the total, the listing has said. Little did they know that a herd of roughly 1,000 birds were heading their way.
This is dope.
Can you imagine, like, not 50, 1,000 6-foot-tall dinosaurs heading your way? And there's
They've got
roughly,
you outnumbered at least 200 to 1.
Yeah, at least. Because that's the thing. That was the other thing too. Is like all these numbers, the numbers that were given were roughly estimated because there are babies in that group, and the babies are still like 4 feet tall, or 3 feet tall. Like they don't grow a whole lot. They're already tall born, and so, or hatched, not born. But this time the gunners were like, you know what? We're gonna hold out. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait until they're actually in range. We don't care how long it takes. So they waited. And they fired. They killed 12 and both the guns jammed.
Been there.
So the remainder of them scattered, and because they were intelligent animals, then realized that farm is an ambush point. We're not going back there anymore. So ideally that farm is now saved. The issue is the damage that they did leaving was double the damage what it was when they were actually eating and taking care of it, because now it's a fight or flight thing. You can't really fight back against bullets if you're a bird, so you're just going to run. Well, you have at the time 988 other birds trampling everything in sight. So that farm was destroyed.
Oof.
Yeah.
They're so lucky that the birds were smart enough to flee and not smart enough to launch a counteroffensive.
Yeah, for real though, because like they only killed a dozen.
12.
That's 988 birds. They could just be like, wait, we're basically dinosaurs.
Yeah.
There's
we're
a
fast.
Da, 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 da.
There's a maximum of 5 people over there.
Both the guns they're using jammed. Alright. So, that was November 4th. Birds weren't seen for several days. They were pretty much scattered around. And again, when it's a herd of 1,000, it's again, the fight or flight. These are intelligent animals. They will know to stick away from most of them. Like the same areas. So, Meredith of the Heavy Artillery Division chose to move further south, where the birds were reported to be fairly tame
Sure.
Just kind of chilling, not doing a whole lot.
I mean, so far they
there's-
haven't really done a lot offensively.
No, they haven't. And that's the thing, because they won't. Australia just really undermined how non-threatening these birds are, ideally. But there was only limited success despite his efforts because of how the past attempts have been. At this point, the media back then was starting to send news stories of failures. Hey, we are paying these people so much money. They're taking so much of our resources through food, through water, through actual money, through transportation, that, this is only 4 days in that they're hey, we really need to, think about this and, hunker down, get it under control. So, on the 4th day, the observers noted that each pack seemed to have a leader, and it was a larger than the rest, stood about a little over 2 meters, so a 7-foot tall alpha.
Dope.
Per pack. And the issue with it is it kept watch. And every time they tried to sneak up on it, it would see them, it would squeal, and not just a little, the whole pack would move at once. They would all scatter.
What's an emu squeal sound like?
Ah.
Oh, they got guns!
Scatter.
Snatch and run! If you guys know what movie that's from, kudos to you. So basically, this pack leader would stand guard, basically like a meerkat, and it would literally just watch. It wouldn't do anything. It would stand in the middle of the herd and they said on record, watch the mass amounts of destruction and warn them of our approach. So, at one stage, Meredith even went as so far as to mount one of the guns on a truck and try to chase it. Little did he know is that due to Australia's rugged outback, this is very ineffective, as the truck was, one, unable to catch up to the birds because they're fast, and the ride was so rough that one of the gunners wasn't able to fire any of the shots. Just couldn't fire the gun. So at this point, they've tried being on foot, they've tried ambushing, and they've even tried just straight up assaulting them. Nothing is working against these birds.
Are they going to try airplanes?
I wish. Just bomb them.
Yeah.
So by November 8th, 6 days after the first engagement, more than 3,000 rounds of ammunition had been fired. And they'd only killed roughly 60 of them. So, and then it says after that it was the number of birds actually killed is uncertain. One statement estimates that it was the 50 birds, 60 after given the dozen, but other accounts range from 200 to 500, the 200 through 500 being from Meredith, the one who wants to make himself look good.
Oof.
So, what?
I just said, oof.
Yeah, right. Meredith's official report stated that his men had suffered no casualties, except their dignity had been massively stunted. What a choice of words. Because, like I said, it really sucks that you're losing to birds, and birds that are harmless to people. They just destroy your crops. They're not actually killing anyone. There's no casualties.
Could they, though?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I feel like they could if they would. But, so, now's where it gets interesting, because this is one of the more famous, if anyone's ever heard of the Emu War.
Now it gets interesting?
I've been so bored this whole time, so
Dude,
thank
same.
goodness.
It's just see me getting this 5 pages, 1,700 word thing typed up.
What page are we on?
2, I think. Or on 3. We're halfway through. Gosh dang it. Focus. Okay.
Me doing homework at college.
Same. We usually did homework together. Yep. So, true. DJ was there too. When we weren't doing homework, we were playing Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Thank you for Fallout 4 for ruining my college experience.
I was watching you
drop out.
play Dragon's Dogma.
Yes, you were. That was a great time. Anyways, so there was an ornithologist named Dominic Cervinti that said that the emus were more intelligent than the average bird, and that
More intelligent than the average Australian soldier.
yeah, for sure. Because
Back
he
then.
says back then, a crestfallen force field therefore withdrew from the combat area about after a month. Like one of the most real sentences in this entire article. And someone, I guess, afterwards had asked him, like, what did you mean by that? And I guess at one point on one of the days when, like, they just fired on them nonstop, the emus had learned the pattern of the guns. And so what they would do is when they were running, if one of them went down, they would scatter the other direction because the Lewis gun could not handle like a jerk movement because of the way it fired. It would cause it to start backfiring the other direction. When you're in the path of it, you have to keep going with it. And so these birds were avoiding the gunfire. Like they were toying with the soldiers. To the point where, like he says, a crestfallen a field of force, therefore withdrew from the combat area. Basically, like, they couldn't do anything. Like, it was just these birds were so smart. They're like, well, we give up. Like, this force is better than ours. Like, we genuinely cannot kill these birds.
I will say, it's wild that this is considered a loss, because so far the number, like, it's like 50 to 0.
Yeah, but they didn't eliminate the threat.
Yeah, but like, I'm
Germany still exists.
I'm chalking one up for Australia here.
You know who else still exists, Gage?
Nazis.
Japan. And they had the bright light dropped on them.
Yeah,
So
Australia should have tried this thing in the 40s.
called nuclear warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just becomes the glowing sea. Like it just becomes literally just fallout.
See, here's the thing. Radiated emus?
That's a resounding hell no. It just becomes like a Dodrio from Pokemon. They grow 3 heads.
Man.
Or 2 heads, so they have 3 more.
Dodrio.
Yeah, then they run like 80 miles an hour.
So if the emus are smarter than people, than the soldiers or whatever, how many nuclear bombs do you think it takes before they finally are like, all right,
Dismantle it,
We surrender.
reprogram it, shoot it back.
no, they surrender?
Oh,
Does the first one do it?
maybe.
Also,
May have to drop 2, just for example.
yeah, I think that
Glass the continent.
dropping the bombs was not good. To be clear, bad stuff. My tone. I wasn't proud of my tone there, and I just want to make clear if this still ends up in the episode, it was bad.
Yeah, war in general is bad.
Yeah,
We're generally against killing.
yeah.
Yeah. Of any kind.
60% of the time, I'd say.
There we go.
I'd say 70.
Depends on what we're talking about. Depends on the money I've been given.
Anyways, back to the
Yeah,
birds.
I put in my notes, I forgot typing this. At one point, I did type this up at like 2 a.m. Like I was just like typing notes. I couldn't sleep. This is definitely one of those notes. I put in all caps, this grown man openly admits the emus had a command. I put, he states that the birds started to learn the shooting patterns and would branch into smaller crowds and split, causing the military equipment to be a total waste. What a bunch of losers. Sorry, Australia.
This is why the Kosovars would be a great place to do ministry.
That's funny. That's a reference.
I need to find that.
So that was on November 8th, whenever actually, oh my gosh, I lost my place. Oh yeah, November 8th is when that gentleman made that statement.
So this is all within a week.
Yeah. like
a few
2.
days.
Maybe 2. Because it started like late October.
Okay.
And so, because November 4th, well,
But
November
the first
4th, no, it's
the
even
first
less,
encounter was like
November-
November 4th, right?
November 2nd was the first encounter. So this
So
is
6
6
days.
days into it. And so, yeah. So less than a week later, on the 8th, The Australian House of Representatives discussed the operation had not been successful. It was starting to gain a massive negative following from news coverage. I guess it had actually started, hit like mainland Europe. That like this event was happening in this continent that was at one point just full of prisoners. But also the one thing to realize those too is like this is now long enough in the history of the world. Like this is under 100 years ago. This wasn't that long, like long ago when this happened.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was basically them just talking about how, like, basically poorly executed the Australians had done this, like, action. And it was actually starting to affect their military, because then it was like, if we have to rely on them for anything else, can we? Which, this is 1932. So, there's another big wartime event happening soon.
Spoilers.
Yeah. I heard it was the bomb. So, but basically, like, it was like, hey, we've killed roughly 50 birds. That's the exact number they were going with at this news stations. But then it started coming out that all those reports were false. And there was nowhere near the original 50. It may have been 10. It may have been 15. Because it's the media skewing things. It's what they're good at. And so, with that day, a week, not even a week after this has been done, Sir George Pierce withdrew and stepped down from the Minister of Defense because he was ashamed of what he had done.
Good.
So, it then goes back in to say that Pierce did not withdraw or step down, but he pulled the military out of the area. But he was not seen in the area, like, in that branch ever again. So it's like, did he move somewhere else? Like, it still, his active record showed he was in the military. He just wasn't in that position. So it's like, kind of like a lost to the history kind of thing. I looked all over the place for it. Everything was pretty much like decisive that it was like, hey, we aren't sure what happened to this guy. He was here, now he's not. I even like looked all over the place and I couldn't find anything. So, but after the withdrawal of Major Meredith, Major Meredith compared the emus to Zulu warriors. He commented on their striking maneuverability and that even when badly wounded, they seemed to get more battle hardened and were indestructible.
Wild.
So, I don't know if you guys know what a Zulu warrior is, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that is like the African tribe warrior, like stereotypical, like feather headdress, big shield, spear, like berserker of a warrior that was just known for like if you were another tribe, you would send those people to fight. Like they were like your. He had also said if we, the military, had a division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face an army in the world and be completely unstoppable. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks, and in this sense, they are like the Zulus, where even the dumb bullets could not stop them.
I wonder what a drone strike would do to them.
You see like a cooked emu, like on the ground, like a fully cooked
Hey guys, we got a new Thanksgiving tradition.
drone strike.
Because it happened in November.
Do the old cassowary casserole.
They open the cloche on the table, and there's a hole cut in the table, and it's a 6-foot tall emu, just cooked head and all.
So you mentioned it.
style.
You know my favorite end-all be-all warrior in history?
Samson.
No. Apparently the Aztecs or the Mayans, one of the ones that the Spanish wiped out.
Both.
That's what I'm saying. It's one of those two.
No.
They had this thing where they were losing to the Spanish, and they were like, okay, well, our last resort is that we need to summon the owl god. But the problem
Who?
with summoning the owl god...
Shut up.
The problem with summoning the owl god is that he's not only going to kill all of them, he's also going to kill all of us. And so what
want to
they
say
did...
that was the Mayans.
Mayans. Okay,
Yeah.
and so what they did is they summoned the owl god. There was a guy who was the chosen... like avatar for him, I guess is the word I'll use. And they sent him out. In the Spanish report, what they said is that they sent out a guy who was on a ton of hallucinogenics who was just running around the rooftops dressed like an owl. And so they shot him.
I'm looking it up.
Poor guy.
So, Gage, you know the Mayan owl god.
I do?
Yeah,
Still did.
Alpug.
Oh, Alpuash.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is us playing Smite. I say the names, Gage corrects me, and I go, uh-huh. I proceed to say it the same way.
Yeah, it's emu.
And then the Aztec one, boy. Cal Cuchesta.
That's Welsh.
It's sir, it's Aztec.
Oh, okay.
Cal Chuhe. I'm not gonna worry about it.
Send it.
You guys can look it up.
Coward.
I'm gonna put it in the chat, Gage, if you want to. You're in your editing magic. You can throw this word up on the screen. There we go.
Calcehetecolotl.
Sure.
Caltech.
DJ, our scribe over here. So yeah, he basically said, "Hey, these are we can't defeat them. They're invincible."
Yeah.
So that was the first attempt. There was another attempt. So this one, after the withdrawal of the military, the emu attacks on the crops continued. Farmers again asked for support, citing the hot weather and drought that brought the emus invading farms in the thousands had gotten worse because they are now focused on the farms. It's the only place to keep finding reliable food and reliable water. So they reached out to James Mitchell. He was the premier of the Western Australia. He lent his support to the renewal of the military resistance, and at the same time, a report from the base commander was issued that indicated that 300 emus have been killed in this operation. So at this point, they are now like full military. It's not just two guys with a bunch of dudes, like 4 or 5 guys. It is the actual military has stepped in. We are fighting these birds. And that is wild to me. Because you just spent so much money on World War I. You're going through a Great Depression. What do? Spend more money fighting birds.
See, they're just taking an example from the military-industrial complex that is the United States. Anytime money is, like, not going well, start a war. Get rich again.
Buy bonds. Buy war bonds.
I feel like
Maybe think
they just wanted an easy victory. They're like, yeah. Those Germans, they were tough.
they were brutes.
But how bad can a bird be?
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, acting on the request of the base commander's reports, by the 12th of November, this is 2 weeks, 10 days, 10 days after the initial thing, the Minister of Defense approved a resumption of the military efforts. He defended the decision in the Senate and just basically explained, like, hey, this is why it's a necessity. We have to defend these things against the serious, and I put it in quotations, serious agricultural threat of the large emu population to the sovereign country of Australia. So at this point, he has made these things a public enemy number 1. We have to kill these birds. And so with that, although the military had agreed to lend the guns to the Western Australian government on the expectation they would provide the necessary people, Meredith was once again placed in the field due to an apparent lack of experienced machine gunners in the state.
Or nor.
When
I hate you.
when do you think they plan on telling them that birds were invented by the government?
By the bourgeoisie. That's the meme, right? I'm too old for that now.
Yeah, for memes.
Yeah, Meredith was brought back. So, taken to the field on November 13th, the military found a degree of success over the first 2 days, with approximately 40 killed.
Better than the first time.
Better than the first time, where it was a whole friggin' week and they only killed roughly 25. The third day proved to be far less successful. No number given, but then the next time we hear anything is December 2nd. So there is a literal month that has happened. This has happened now. So all the time, all of the resources, a month into this, and they're still going at it. And so the soldiers were killing approximately 100 emus per week, starting on the 2nd. So not bad. We're picking up some slack here. But then Meredith was recalled on December 10th. And in his report, he claimed that he killed 986 himself.
Cute.
But there's no evidence of it. And this is also the same man who inflated his numbers the first time. Gets a bit of a backlash.
I trust him.
Because he also stated that he had 900, he killed them with 9,860 rounds. And someone was like, it's very specific. And he goes, yeah, it's 10 rounds per bird. Which raises more questions. Why does it take 10 bullets of a 30-06 or a 7.62 or a 303 to kill one bird?
How many do you think it would take?
Because you mess with 8 of them.
You probably miss with 9. That's a big round, dude. If it can take out think about this, right? If a 30-06 can drop a 90-pound buck.
Buck only weighs 90 pounds?
I'm saying like bare minimum.
Oh.
Because I mean, they go heavier for sure. But like, that bullet's going to cause a lot more damage to a
I was going to say, if bucks only weigh 90
duck.
pounds, I'm just going to wrestle one.
I said duck, didn't I? I meant to say bird. But like, it's a big fluffy bird. Like, there's no... I mean,
Fluffy
yes,
duck.
I mean, they
Hi-
kind of look like ducks. Not really.
How many of these bullets do you think it would take to take me down?
1.
Well, that's kind of rude, but okay.
It's not. It's not. It would take 1 to take me down.
Well, that didn't make it better, so...
DJ, I'm like twice your size. I think.
I assumed it was about, like, skull thickness or something.
Oh, no. I'm talking like fluff, my guy. Oh, no, you're dead now. You might have a dad bod going. There's no idea.
Dude, I've had a
Never
dad
seen.
bod since 2015.
Same. Preach, brother, preach. So, in addition, Meredith claimed that exactly 2,500 wounded birds had also died from their injuries.
Okay. All right.
They like going back to their hospital tents, like keeping
Right.
count.
They're there, like they're like just sawing off like wings with their beaks. Which I mean, at this time they're doing that, right?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you get shot and they're just going to cut that limb off. They did not. In assessing the success of the cull, as they call it, an article in the Cull Guardian Miner on the 23rd of August, 1935, 3 years later, reported that although the use of machine guns had been criticized in many quarters, the method had finally proved effective and saved what remained of the wheat. I kind of forgot this is all for wheat. Something that, like, Oklahoma has a ton of.
Kansas.
We take for granted. Kansas also has a ton.
Nebraska.
Nebraska's
Corn.
corn.
We need more emus.
We should go steal some.
Make us earn our wheat.
We should go steal those, like how I want to steal a Sinclair dinosaur.
Yeah.
Sinclair dinosaur?
The green dinosaur in front of gas stations.
Oh, so there's this old gas station that got turned into a laundromat in Fort Scott, and it has one of those sitting out front. And I have a picture of me sitting on it, and I so badly wanted to take it when I had my apartment in Fort Scott. I was gonna call them and just be like, "Hey, how much do I need to save up for you to sell that to me?"
So you
I'll
want to
move
hear,
it.
Want to hear what's funny? So
Yeah.
we had a massive windstorm roll through Oklahoma probably 3 weeks ago. Like 80 mile, 90 mile an hour gust of wind. DJ probably got it too in Joplin.
Nothing too bad. Was it like a derecho?
sucked.
Like,
Huh?
was it like? Does the word derecho mean anything to you?
No.
Okay, cool.
It's the dust. It was, I guess there were some fires in Dallas area that like we caught the dust off those too.
Yikes.
And so, but there's a Sinclair on the corner from my house. I wouldn't say on the corner. It's probably like a mile or two from my house. I drove by and the dinosaur was laying down flat. Like it snapped the legs off at the feet. And I genuinely looked at it and went, if I had a truck, I would steal that thing right now and put it in my backyard. Like 100%. If you guys don't know what a Sinclair dinosaur is, look it up. Because they're...
It's
so
Dinoco,
stupid.
but real.
Yes, it's a giant... I would say giant.
Sure.
They're what? 5 feet tall, Gage? And like 4 or 5 feet long?
Yeah, life
Yeah,
size.
it's like a 1-to-5 ratio.
Yeah. But it's like a big plaster dinosaur. I think.
I do. You say giant, but it's like giant compared to what?
A toy dinosaur.
It's a giant toy dinosaur.
So, I don't know why I started doing this. I now title this paper Chapter 3, and there hasn't been chapters up until this.
What page are we on?
4. We're almost done.
Okay.
Actually, no, this is 5.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 5. So, Chapter 3, the damage. Despite the problems encountered with the coal, the farmers of the region once again requested military assistance in 1934, 1943, and 1948. Like, it was an ongoing thing for this long.
Okay.
Only to be turned down every single time. Because the government was like, hey, listen, we've gone through this once. We do not want to go through it again. It didn't work. It did work. We don't want it to risk having now, at the time, you're now dealing with, like, especially 1948, a lot of moving pieces in militaries around the world. So instead, they brought on the bounty system. So DJ mentioned dog tags earlier, and I kind of alluded to it. This was hinted at in 1923, and wasn't really kept up with because they didn't know what to do. And there was just so many of them that they were afraid that, like, a farmer could go through basically where they had shot them, claim the ones that were left behind, and get money out of it. Because they didn't want the farmers getting the money. Came back to the subsidiaries. It was one of those things where it's like, hey, now you're scamming us. So, the bounty system was implemented, and this proved to be extremely effective, because now, it wasn't just military personnel that can kill these birds. It was everyone. So, over a span of 6 months in 1934, when this began, 57,034 emus were killed. These civilians, with, like, not Lewis machine guns, were doing more work than what the army was.
What trophy did you have to bring? I'm sorry if you said it already.
It was usually a foot or the dead bird itself.
So you bring a foot, and they declare that you've killed a bird?
Yes.
Did they know that...
2 feet?
I think it did say later on that, like, it was 2 you had to bring.
Okay.
Because it was like people were taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I would.
By December of 1932, so we're jumping around here a little bit.
Sure.
1 feather per bird.
The word of the Emu War had spread, and it had finally reached the United Kingdom.
Oy.
So now it's sitting on the doorstep of the royal family. Some conversationists there protest the cull as extermination of the rare emu.
Conservation.
Like, they're like, hey, this bird is now it's at risk. We have to stop this. The gentleman I mentioned earlier, Dominic Cervinti and Hubert Whittell, they were Australians ornithologists, described the war as an attempt of the mass destruction of wildlife as we know it. Because they were like, listen, if we could allow this to happen, who's to say America doesn't do it on one of their animals, or Europe doesn't do it on one of their animals? Like,
Yeah, we already did.
Yeah. Correct. Buffalo.
White horn rhino. That was an Africa thing, though.
If it wasn't
hear
an
about
American
that?
thing, we did a real good job.
Yeah,
We
don't
did do
even
a
know
pretty
about
good
it.
job of getting rid of the American lions. We did do a pretty good job of that.
Wasn't
Adios.
dodo birds also screwed over by us?
I don't think that was Americans, but that was by people. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, it's just they're like, hey man, this is not a good thing. We have to get this under control. So throughout the early 1930s and then onward, an exclusion barrier fencing was introduced, which basically became a popular means of keeping the birds out, as well as other animals like dingoes and rabbits, which then draws the question, could they have just built fences the first time?
You shut your mouth.
But yeah, so like that was an issue people had after it was done.
Yeah.
Was that like, wait a minute, we spent so much money, we took so much money from people. Like, this had the funding of a smaller real war. Why did we not just build these tall fences to begin with? Like, that was the thing. And it was like, or you find out where they're at, because they did travel in herds, trap them within the fence. Like, don't, we're not talking Minecraft, right? It's not, you're not going to get the fence right up on them. It's going to be several miles long.
Yeah.
But, like, you still trap them in that enclosure, they're trapped, they can't get out. So all these questions were raised up of these people like, we really handled this poorly. Like, this is actually seen as a stain on, like, their wartime history, because it just wasn't handled correctly at all. In 1950, Hugh Leslie raised the issue of emus in federal parliament, and he urged the army minister, Josiah Francis, to release a quantity of .303 ammunition from the armory for the use of farmers. The ministry approved the release of 500,000 rounds of ammunition because the fence was not enough. They wanted them dead. Like, at this point, they were done. Like, they are fed up. It is now, like I mentioned earlier, no kill like overkill, kill the birds. And that is actually the last time anything's ever been mentioned of it. I can't find anything if it's still going on today. I know that they are still, like I mentioned, there's at least 750,000, the continent of Australia, which is wild. And that's a population of a major city. Just birds wandering around doing their own thing.
Australia is huge.
Yeah, it's massive, which means fair. So, Chapter 4, The Legacy. And this is just like 2 sentences. In 2019, a musical adaptation of the story was workshopped in Melbourne.
Lin-Manuel Miranda doing his thing.
An action comedy film titled The Emu War premiered at Monster Fest in 2023. And last but not least, this one got a good kick out of me. Another action comedy movie retelling of the entire events was written by John Cleese, Monty Franklin, Camilla Cleese, Jim Jeffries, and Rob Schneider, and was aiming to begin production in 2023 or 2024. Not much has been known about this. I've looked up everything, and it still says, even on Wikipedia, needs an update.
So that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
The Great Emu War.
man.
Yeah.
Sorry I ended it.
Rob Schneider ended it, actually.
Rob Schneider in The Great Emu War.
In a world.
In a world. Join us with Kevin James, Adam Sandler, and Chris Rock. My wife hates that voice. That's why I like
Chris
go-to,
Rock as the emus.
We've
Man, don't shoot me.
Anywho, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Garrett, for all your hard work.
Yeah, I feel like I could have done a lot more, but DJ is still engaged. There's really not. I just very distinctly remember hearing about this for the first time in Ozark, and it was Caleb White and I.
Of course it was.
And I don't even know how the topic got brought up.
Caleb White.
Yeah.
That's fair. But like I just remember us like reading, because we read the Wikipedia page back then, and it was nowhere near as detailed. Like nowhere. And so we were like looking it over. I just remember like being in tears, laughing and like learning about like the birds, memorizing the patterns of the guns, like maneuvering them. And I just remember him like, this is just gonna sound like Latin to people at home listening, watching, whatever. But do you guys remember when he would put his shorts over his head? And it was just like him walking around with like his legs, like those red athletic shorts.
Yeah.
He did that, and then stuck his hand out the top, and like would act like an emu. And so like, it was so funny because then it was like it became a joke, and I remember like everyone hated it when he did that because it just looked really strange. But it was great, and every now and then I always tell like people like, "What's the weirdest thing you know?" And I'm like, "Do you know Australia technically lost a war against birds?" And I go into the rant of a much shorter version, not an hour and a half.
No, you should.
Of how they no one has time for this.
What's the strangest thing you know? You say, "Well, I've got a notebook here. Let me tell you."
I've got 1,700
Let me
plus
send you a
words.
link to this podcast episode I filmed with 2 of my buddies
Oh,
So-
you should make people watch us in public places and like
on full volume.
hold your phone there, full volume,
Yeah.
and like if they try to leave or whatever, you're like, "Oh no, like the good part's coming up,
Yeah. You see? Yeah, yeah, the whole thing.
dude. It gets better."
So, funny bringing up Caleb White. He actually inspired one of our older episodes, one of the audio-only episodes. He's the person who told me about the orang madon.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, yeah, technically we can thank Caleb White for 2 of our episodes now.
I love
fair.
you, Caleb.
That's how Ben and I were.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Thanks.
let's go ahead and start winding down. Before we say some final words, we are moving into this new segment that we're doing at the end of our episodes called What We're Into. Now, DJ and I just did one of these 2 days ago because we're trying to stockpile a couple of episodes now. But I have one. DJ, do you have one?
I sure can.
And Garrett, I know you have one.
Yeah.
Garrett, you're the guest. Let's let you go first. What are you into right now?
Well, if you're a man of if you're a person of culture like myself, you're really playing the Oblivion remaster right now. That when I was at work, I was doing an interview. I was interviewing someone for a position, and my reminder went off my phone that just said Oblivion remaster. Turn on YouTube, idiot. And I finished the interview very quickly. Hired him, by the way.
Hey.
And put the earbud in. And when I heard, oh yeah, it's releasing today, I had to go walk into my walk-in at work and message all my friends and was like, guys, I'm at work till 5. Help.
Garrett sent me a message and was like, hey, so I'm still down for tomorrow, but I was going to finish my research tonight, and Oblivion just shadow dropped.
Yeah. I told Gage, I was like, which is funny. Voice crack. The only thing I had left was, like, the legacy portion of that, so it wasn't even that bad. I did that today after work.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm still working away, so.
Gotcha. DJ, what are you into?
Man. I mentioned it in the last episode, but that was like 2 days ago and I haven't gotten to do much with it yet. But I did just buy an action camera recently and have been toying with it. It's what I recorded this episode with. At least on my screen it looks cleaner and crisper, which is good, I guess.
Probably will in the final product too.
Oh, good.
Because remember, it records locally.
When I mowed today, I did a time lapse. I haven't gotten to watch it yet because I mowed and then showed up like 10 minutes late to this. So I'm gonna watch that here pretty soon. It's gonna be real boring. But I'm testing it out, getting hyped for the trip that's coming up. I'm also
Don't die.
we'll try. The water's gonna be up a little, but that's all right. It's not gonna be flooded or anything. We won't float on the river if it's flooded.
Here's what I'm into. This is a book that none of you listeners have probably ever heard of. It's called Until Unity by Francis Chant. And DJ and I, every other week, have been doing an episode where we discuss a chapter from this book. And we're about to finish up our book club. I've really enjoyed digging through it. And sure, check out the podcast episodes about it. For sure. Do it. But genuinely, check out the book. I've really enjoyed it. It's been very good and fruitful for me, I think, in my walk with Christ in this season. So, highly recommend it. Yeah, that's what I'm into today. That and another book, Shane Wood's new book. It's called Thinning the Veil. And it's about just a book about the book of Revelation, essentially. It is dense, I will say, but so far I'm enjoying it.
I mean, your best friend is dense, so that means not smart. It means dumb.
DJ, is that
No, I
bang
know that.
behind
You're
you on
not
the shelf?
dense, though.
Yeah, it is bang.
Well, I'm going to say some final thank yous real quick. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us this far. If you're still listening, you're amazing. If you're not still listening, you're still amazing, but you just won't get to hear me say it. Thank you, Garrett, for putting the work in to get this ready for us and for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a lot of fun. And, we're going to have you on again. I feel like it happens every couple of months at this point. Thank you, again, everybody who's been along for this journey. We are over a year and a half at this point, and it's just been so exciting. This is actually going to be our 70th episode as it comes out. So that's just pretty fun. It's been a good journey. I feel like it's crazy that we have well over 100 hours of content out there at this point. That's just so cool to me to think about. That we've been able to do this, and that we have actually had people join us for the journey. Across all platforms, we have over 100 subscribers now, so that's really fun. And some of them are overlapping, but still,
Garrett.
it's just a lot of fun. And I appreciate all of you. We appreciate all of you, except for Garrett.
What?
We appreciate Garrett 3 times for the 3
Fine.
subscribers he is.
We appreciate Garrett in every episode. The episode he's here, we're just not going to do it. No, but genuinely, we do appreciate all of you. It's so fun to have this community and to be doing this. A couple more thank yous. I want to thank Adam Ward and Jared Scrother for intro and outro music. We do need to have Jared on at some point. I need to reach out to him and get that scheduled. But at this point, our schedule's just kind of hectic. We've got a couple other people lined up. And then we've got summer. We've got something fun coming this summer.
This summer.
Join us for 13 weeks of the monstrous, the ghastly, and the downright unexplainable. Get ready for Everything But the Cats presents Creatures Unseen.
It's just Honey Boo Boo or whatever that thing was called.
Here comes Honey Boo Boo.
No, I'm taking a drink, dude.
Yeah, but genuinely, thank you, Adam and Jared. You guys are great, and we'll get Jared on eventually. Anyways, thank you to everybody who has been a part of this. It's been so much fun. Thank you, DJ, for always being here with me and for encouraging me to do this, because I wouldn't have started it. Genuinely, I probably wouldn't have ever started anything if you hadn't said you would be my co-pilot. So I appreciate that. So yeah, if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, comment. If you're listening at this point in the episode, leave a review on our Apple Podcast. Rate us on Spotify. Leave a comment on every YouTube video that you see this face or that face or that face in. Yeah, please.
Leave a comment on every YouTube video you see.
Pick a fight with a stranger in the comments. It always goes
Yeah.
well.
Pick a fight with me in the comments.
Insult
I
someone's
will
mom.
retaliate.
Tell Gage his Morse code was wrong. Or DJ's Morse code was wrong.
I posted a picture of my grandma in the 70s to Old School Cool on Reddit. But she was a cop back then. And there were a number of comments that were like, "A-cab, even your grandma." Which is, like, I probably agree with those people on a number of things, right? But I feel like, anyways, go fight people. Just say whatever comes to mind, whatever feels right politically, just like anything inside of you, release it into the internet.
Align yourself
AEAB.
with today's culture.
Yeah.
All
Let 'em have
emus.
So, hey, find that post about my grandma. Tear her to shreds, I guess.
What DJ doesn't know is he accidentally posted it to roast me.
That's funny. But yeah. Thank yourselves.